Alright everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course. Unpause and then repause. As usual, thank you Clem Sample for that. Yeah, I misclicked accidentally with the pinned comment over on YouTube. There's a lot of weird stuff in the news today. This is going to be, I think, mostly a fun news day. Sometimes it comes at you really fast. You can't keep up with it. You have to bounce news stories or make them B-sides, so to speak. Sometimes you get a day where there's like one thing that everyone's talking about or no one's talking about anything at all. And then sometimes you get a really great day like today where it's like, what the heck am I even reading? Emmanuel Macron had to call Donald Trump in actually at the UN Assembly at the French Embassy in New York because his motorcade was stuck. And they wouldn't let him through because they were waiting for Trump's motorcade. And he was like, oh, well, I negotiate with you and stuff like that. And it was funny. He got humiliated. I think that this was probably on purpose. Meanwhile, at the same assembly, we've got the Escalator incident. That was on purpose, too. Lawsuit renews questions about Senator Ron Wyden's residency. I knew that there were some questions about Wyden and some of his weird goings-on. But it gets down one hell of a rabbit hole. We're talking sexual assault. We're talking, allegedly, his daughter, like, trying to perv on the driver and stuff like that. I'll have to read some of that verbatim because that's a weird story. I don't think we've got any more further updates, but several people were shot at a Dallas ice field office. Looks like the shooter was actually shooting detainees as opposed to officers. This may be gang crime. It could be somebody who's a member of a cartel or something like that, you know, silencing the witnesses, so to speak. So we're not 100% on that, but we'll dig into it. I will look it up live as well, just to see if there are any further updates when we get to it. And then we have a war on ostriches in the nation of Canada. I universally condemn waging war on ostriches. By the way, ask the Australians about how successful they were waging war on emus, a fairly close relative, if I remember, of ostriches. It's not going to go over well for you. You've got the calls for resignation of multiple officials as a result of this. Farm had avian flu breakout last year. Now, all of a sudden, after a 10-month court battle, they're trying to force them to cull their entire herd. And they actually detained them for a while. And they're like, well, yeah, it's fine. We're going to let you go, but you got to let us kill all of your ostriches. Even though none of them are actually sick. And that's because of their excuse, well, we don't know how long avian flu lasts in the symptom. They could relapse or something and get sick. I've got my feelings on this. G-Sticks fucking love the pirate figurine. High kudos to the creator. Yeah, there's all sorts of cool stuff around here. Like, you know, you don't have to take life so seriously. Turtles Toy Box. I love those ostrich burgers from Fuddruckers. I've had ostrich burgers before too. Yeah, they are good. You have to be careful not to overcook them though, because if you cook them like a regular hamburger, which is what we're having later actually, it will burn. Jeremy Briggs. Never forget Peanut. Indeed. Yeah, the Canadians are prepared to kill 400 ostriches for literally no reason whatsoever while jailing, temporarily of course, the owners of the farm. Wonderful. So let's get to all sorts of stuff. Put the pirate hat back on, Stick, says Tim Haynes. Very well. It's right here. For a reason, my friend. Yes, Fred the Raccoon often gets forgotten, unfortunately. Everyone knows about Peanut the Squirrel, but Fred the Raccoon also got euthanized by the authorities, again, without any particular reason whatsoever. That was just my mom sending me an image. Sometimes she sends me memes, like I don't use Facebook, so I get them randomly. Let's first, though, get to our sponsors. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills, and they're so good for you. They work well for me, that's for sure. It's the only thing keeping me alive. Well, that and meat and coffee, I suppose. Really good for you. Made of mushroom supplements. Not the psilocybin slash amanita side of mushrooms, but rather the ones that are neuroregenerative, good for gastrointestinal health. They seem to be very, very bioactive. It works very well. And so you can also get doggo snacks from them as well, which smell really good. And I think I might have to taste test one of the doggo snacks at some point. I might as well. Smells all right, so what's wrong with it? It's edible. BiltongUSA.com, the land of Anton's meat. And also he has various foreign imports. You can get bagged meat, Wagyu, Cabanassi, Angus, bison, and so forth. Sort of like a little bit of an Oregon Trail expedition, I suppose. Bet they wish they had biltong back then, just saying. Also, various other goods, including, and anytime Anton is mentioned, we must do this. It's a channel tradition now. Can't wait to do it on Christmas, too. We're going to have a Christmas special this year, by the way, I've decided. Bovright. The South Africans took the basic concept of the British Marmite, managed to make it 10,000 times better. So, it's definitely a great advent. And then finally, jamandbean.com. That is jamnbean.com, where you can get Clanker coffee. You can also get the Costa Rica blend. Other coffees are available. They have different notes in them. I like the Clanker blend. That's the one that I chose personally. Taste tested several different kinds. That was the one that I focused on. And I think that it came out really, really well. Also, lots of tea available. Probably going to have some Yunnan Jig later because it's delicious. I've got some of the teas right here, right now. This one is the Virtues Cup Herbal Tisane Tea, caffeine-free. This is more like a late afternoon tea. Apple, hibiscus, rose hips, mango, cinnamon, clove, and ginger. So that's for you got a cold. You know, your stomach needs settling, so there's the ginger. And you just want something that's a little bit mild and fruity. The friendship tea is exquisite, by the way. Sigil stone. You know how bamboo shoots under the fingernail is a form of torture? I took a very large splinter under my thumbnail the other day. Fucking hell does that hurt. Ow. Thankfully, I've only had that happen once. I was just playing around outside and my nails scratched against a piece of wood and one piece flaked off. It went halfway under the nail. I know your pain. Ugh. It's pretty bad. Copium. Erica Kirk is a MILF. Yeah, but, yeah, come on, leave him alone. Just for a little while, we'll leave him alone. And what's she supposed to do, stay single for the rest of her life? Copium poppies. Sigil took wood. Ha! BWO, when are you going to UVM to set up a debate table? Not really interested in that. Try debating the average leftoid. Their eyes are just going to glaze over. There's no reason to debate them at this point. Copium. Too soon? Yeah, too soon. I mean, if it was a warmonger like John McCain or something like that, I'd say, fuck it. Just go ahead and make your jokes, because it's hysterical. Charlie Kirk never kicked a dog across the parking lot, so. Anyways, yeah, here's the first news story of the day. This is absolutely hilarious. Emmanuel Macron comes to the UN General Assembly and was trying to make it to the French embassy. But the road was blocked off because Donald Trump's motorcade was going to be moving through New York City. And so Macron got delayed, and there's a hysterical video of him. You can take the live link from this if you want. There's like 20,000 of them at this point, not without good reason. And he's sitting there saying, you won't believe this, but, you know, I can't get across the road. And then he had to walk, actually, to to his location because they wouldn't allow his vehicle through. So he had to walk and apparently pose for a few selfies and a few things like that on the way there. That's pretty funny. I have a feeling that Donald Trump meticulously arranged things so that the road would be closed around the time that he arrived. And this is funny. Just like with the Escalator story, it's like, okay, Donald Trump and his wife and his entourage are just about to get onto the escalator, and all of a sudden it stops working. Then the teleprompter stopped working as well. I don't think that they realize that the joke really is on them, because Trump can then say, well, this is a symbol of the UN. It just doesn't work. They were clearly taking a nab at him for the golden escalator moment in 2016 and showing general disrespect. But it is a funny way of doing so. There was never any risk. Some people are going a little bit over the top right now and saying, oh God, this is a major security failure. And the Secret Service and the UN security forces have had problems before. This was not to get Trump killed. This was a trolling attempt. And a very successful one. I mean, it's very funny. It's fucking hilarious, actually. And, of course, the legacy media, they're never going to cover anything fairly. So they'll say, like, Trump was too heavy. They had to stop the escalator because he's, orange man bad. He's fat and poops his pants or something like that. Sigil, the chunk I took went almost to the root of the nail and was almost half as wide as my thumbnail. Ow! Copium, fair. I'll give it a couple of weeks. Tarred and feathered, Macron's wife and husband was working the other side of the street in a rabbit skin jacket. She seems to like fur a lot. I have noticed that, actually. This Wyden story, thank you, Copium, by the way, for this, is very, very strange. It appears that under the auspices of state law in Oregon, Ron Wyden arguably does not count as a resident of Oregon anymore. It appears that he is instead, technically speaking, a resident of Washington, D.C. This is actually fairly common for politicians to spend a lot of time in D.C. because they get to work there and commuting takes time and stuff like that. So that's not, terribly, odd or anything like that, but it appears that any paperwork that needed to be submitted wasn't necessarily submitted with regards to his technical residency. Some states, they don't really care, but Oregon is one of the states that does. I mean, he spends so much time, he's partying down, he's not representing his constituents anyway, nobody expects that from him. And there's a book that was fucking written, well, two of them technically. There's one part in here, though, that's even more strange. Let me try to find it here, because, yeah. Well, I'll just start from here. The Wyden family very clearly spends a lot of time in New York City with their business and their pets located in the Big Apple rather than the City of Roses. Yes, that's the other thing. He spends a lot of time there as well. So it's like, do you have 3 residencies? We're not 100% sure. Where Wyden is registered to vote. Senator Wyden's Senate business also precludes spending 6 months at a time in the Beaver State, which is not abnormal for members of Congress. Again, that's not a big problem. However, Senator Wyden's children do not live in Oregon and attend school in New York City, as detailed by a lawsuit filed by a former personal assistant's family. Not only does the lawsuit describe the commute to and from school in New York, recent court filings present a picture of a violently homophobic home life of a senator who famously called for same-sex marriage to be legalized in 1995. I don't know how to interpret this. Are you telling me that in their personal life they're like saying the F word over and over again, but he still wanted to legalize gay marriage? And he's a politician, so it wouldn't, confuse me. The New York Post broke the story about a lawsuit filed by the estate of Mrs. Wyden's deceased personal assistant. He killed himself, actually. Here's why he killed himself. Apparently, this is according to the law. This is a legal briefing. According to the lawsuit, O'Brien had been instructed to begin transporting one of Wyden's children to and from school. I'm assuming that this connotates that it's a minor. During the commutes, the child would engage in highly inappropriate sexual behavior, making sexually explicit remarks, inquiring about the assistant's private life, and exposing herself. After Mrs. Wyden apparently took no corrective action, O'Brien refused to continue transporting the child to school. The lawsuit claims that his replacement experienced similar treatment. So here you've got a real big problem. You should be hiring a female driver at that point. That could be a big problem. In 2023, O'Brien was apparently given the responsibility to transport one of the Wyden's other children to and from school, and the lawsuit details more lurid comments regarding his sexuality from this particular individual. Allegedly, the harassment escalated to physical violence that at one point caused Mrs. Wyden to mace her son and inadvertently mace O'Brien in the process. After O'Brien resigned, the lawsuit alleges that Mrs. Wyden filed a police report with the New York Police Department claiming he had committed theft and credit card fraud, hired a private investigator to probe O'Brien's affairs the following month, and spread defamatory statements to industry contacts and O'Brien's professional colleagues to impede new employment opportunities. The lawsuit's narrative ends with a disturbing turn of events because he killed himself. So basically, you're the driver for a couple of kids that, I mean, if kids are doing that sort of thing, it's likely that adults were involved in causing them to do that. And since the driver is the one making these reports, well, multiple drivers, we can insinuate that it is likely that it was Wyden himself and or his wife that was screwing with these kids' heads. So this is creepy. It verges from ha 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 to oh shit, basically. So yeah, it looks like, you know, Mr. Wyden probably is molesting his daughters or something like that. I think there's a son there too. I think that was he was the one that attacked the other driver, apparently, allegedly. You know, we're not exactly sure the extent, and they're trying desperately to keep this sealed, by the way, from the public. Yes, Copium. No, not New York. New York, not D.C. Yes, I know, but he spends time in D.C. as well. King of Biltong. Fuck. Just got off the phone with our electricians. Massive storm last night blew our one building over. Fuck, not good. Really fucking up our plans. It blew the whole thing over? That must have been one hell of a storm. My apologies for that. Yeah, we need Biltong updates and stuff like that. You mean that the building outright collapsed or it took the roof off or what the hell happened? I guess we've got more breaking news. Sigil. Politician's home is a den of perversion and disgust. Shocking. Yeah, Wyden sounds like a creepy dude. I mean, he looks like one. He looks like the sort of person who would be on To Catch a Predator, so. And then we've got that ice shooting, by the way. At least, I believe it's now up to 4 people got shot. And several, I believe one died, and the shooter killed himself. White male, which I'm sure that liberals are fixated on. White male with a gun. Oh my god. It's the most terrible thing. We're actually going to look that up live, because I want to see if there are more updates. This was in Dallas. It was at an ICE facility. We've seen multiple attacks on ICE facilities over the last week, and it does not surprise me, by the way, in the least. So we're going to see if there's any new updates here. We'll try to... yeah, the shooter is down. 3 other people were shot. I don't think there are any more updates here. It looks like it was actually detainees, though, that were the target. So naturally, the liberals probably right now are having a field day proclaiming it was some, like, Klansman or something that just wanted to kill brown people. I wouldn't be surprised. That's more of a writer story, though, because we really don't have any further information. At first, they were insinuating that it was ICE officers that had been shot. We now know that it does not appear that they were the ones that were actually targeted. BP sent $10. No comment. Thank you very much. Brunswick Green. India Tango Mike. Thank you for your courage. Hee hee. Travis Blaze, do you think the damage from illegal migration in the US and Europe is reversible? Yes, I do. Are the numbers too large since they are lying about the real numbers? No, we've been deporting more people than are coming in now for quite a few months, actually. It is possible. All that requires is the will to do so. And then getting, slow congressional and parliamentary systems to actually allocate the funds and the resources to do so. I hear that dingy noise again. Earlier today, there was some sort of animal scrabbling around right above me, and it was making a lot more noise than a squirrel would make, so I had to go up there with a ladder into the attic with the pellet gun and my machete And I figured that, I can probably take care of this, but I couldn't find it, so I don't know exactly what's living up there. Might be a possum or something like that. Yeah, if I kill a possum, I'll probably boil and eat it. Sigil, breaking news. A tornado has picked up and swept away Anton's house with him and family inside. Reports say it landed upon an Eastern practitioner of witchcraft and he was rescued by candy midgets. Yeah, blew the whole building over? Ah, shit. Hope it was insured. Copium poppies, it's one of your cats. No, they're all down here. They couldn't get up into there. Quincy's too fat. Athena's got bad back legs, and Micah is basically a homebody. Plus, there's no way up into the attic from the main floor. I don't know. I don't know what the hell it was. I have a feeling it might have come in through the... there's a tube on the side about this big around. I think it's a vent. I'm not 100% sure. I think they came in there. If Winter's loading sticks, I'm mixed on Jimmy Kimmel. If it was Brendan Carr pressuring stations to cut Kimmel off, then not good. If they did themselves, that's fine. Why does FCC control airwaves anyway? Yeah, I mean, I would ask the same question. I don't care if the FCC even exists. But insofar as there are going to be rules with regards to public broadcasting, they've got to be equally implemented. Carr did threaten the network, but there was no official action ever taken. The FCC was not involved with the decision-making process. 92 Cat, it's Bobby Bobinson's spirit haunting your attic, Sticks. Is Bobby there? Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. Taco Woman, Sandy Ravage, Computing Forever is back on YouTube. Ah, good. Excellent. Yeah, YouTube has gone on a spree now of restoring accounts that were down for so-called medical disinformation and so-called election disinformation. They never should have implemented these rules in the first place, and let me be one of the first to say, fuck you to YouTube, because you never should have been doing this. You should have known better. After the fact, reimposing people's channels when they've lost out in some cases on hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions in ad revenue, instead of some of these people make their career making news and content like that, and you took their channels down, and they lost a shit ton of money. I hope there's a class action lawsuit, actually. Channels should only be banned for things that are illegal or non-speech. Any other form of speech should be perfectly allowed on the platform. If this were imposed through Section 230 reform on all websites, then they would also no longer have to worry about advertisers fleeing, because the advertisers wouldn't have anywhere to flee to. Yes, Rage Scholar, I took them down manually. I went through a search and I deleted virtually everything that dealt with either of those particular situations to safeguard the channel. I would have been banned otherwise. I mean, I guess I'd be talking to you today, but it would have been a good long time before I was able to actually speak. I was willing to make that particular sacrifice because I'm like, well, older videos, people, fewer people are tuning into them unless it's like a library sort of thing. So like the occult videos. It's like an educational library. So I would never take those down. Thankfully, YouTube doesn't have a problem with black magic, I guess. King of Biltong. We're still building it out. No insurance, of course. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I think Anton's got a lot going on. I guess a storm blew his building down. We will take penance in the form of more Vegemite in order to help him spiritually. No, it's delicious, so it's not much of a penance. Hope you get your factory, your shed, or whatever it is, righted. Because Biltong is great. If you haven't tried it, just trust me. Buy one bag of the Biltong. Just trust me on this one and try it. Xantal. I just read that Amazing/MGM, I think you mean Amazon, is planning to remake Basic Instinct of all movies. Good luck finding anyone in Hollywood willing to touch it, knowing how controversial it was even back in '92. I haven't actually heard of that before. Sigil, YouTube, admits to blatantly illegal action in conjunction with the Biden admin. Pam Bondi, duh. Yeah, don't expect anything to be done about this. The fact that they're restoring people's accounts and certain videos and stuff is great. But it's only one small step, not one giant leap for internet kind. And so it's underwhelming. And the Trump administration, while it's doing a good job in many ways, on the issue of internet censorship, has admittedly been anemic. I don't see any Section 230 reform, and I don't see an Internet Bill of Rights, and those were two of the things that enthused me the most about his presidential run, because that was in the very first video that he released on Rumble when he sort of permanently launched his campaign. And other than talking about it briefly on occasion, there hasn't been a whole lot done. But that's the literal bedrock of everything else he wants to do. As long as you have people like us able to speak and to support you, you're going to get a lot more accomplished. We can apply a pressure campaign. We can't do that under the current circumstances, so that should really be coming first. I understand clamping down on the border and attempting to conduct meaningful diplomacy and the tax relief, which is good. Those are more important overall, but the thing is, to pressure even other countries, you need the will of content creators at this point, because the legacy media ain't going to cut it. Yeah, Pam Bondi has been a disappointment, we'll put it that way, along with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They should all be fired. Yeah, what the hell is Basic Instinct about? I have no clue. Oh, I've still got to look into live streaming Oregon Trail 2, actually. The problem is that the original program I downloaded, I can cast audio from it, but I can't actually do trades, and it crashes randomly and is all fucked up. The one I've got now is perfectly stable, and in fact it's upgraded from the original vanilla release and is much, much better, actually. It's also harder, which makes it even more fun. You may or may not get it to your destination alive. Yeah, you might get there in a casket with your children sadly carrying you there to Oregon City, or St. Joseph or something like that. But I couldn't figure out how to cast audio on StreamYard. I know you can use OBS and stuff like that, but I've never been able to figure that shit out. I've never gotten it to work properly. Copium Poppies. Basic Instinct is about Sharon Stone's vagina. Oh, okay. Yeah, not interested then. Sigil. So when are we covering that absolute patriot in Texas that didn't hit any ICE agents but sniped several detainees? And Basic Instinct is a crime thriller where Sharon Stone flashes pussy to Newman. Yeah, it sounds boring to me. The Dashing Rogue. Bird. Thoughts on the H-1B visa and the Jeets losing it? It's Kali Yuga for them again. Western Man is a winning script, not caste entitlement. I support the H-1B overhaul. It makes sense. What this means is that you're going to get more highly skilled workers, people that already have money to invest in things like that, thus creating jobs for people in the United States who really want jobs. They just blue collar, middle class sort of jobs and stuff like that. But right now they're competing with people that'll take half the money because they're foreigners. This will preclude that group of people from being in the country and allow them to get better wages. Yeah, I don't even know who Sharon Stone is, but it doesn't sound like my kind of movie. 2 people arrested and released at BC, this is British Columbia up in Canada, ostrich farm facing cull over avian flu. At first it's like, okay, some virulent disease is broken out among these birds, and so they must cull them. And you're like, maybe they impeded, and that's why they were briefly detained. That's not actually what happened, though. What happened is that last year, their flock got avian flu. They've been fighting a legal battle now for 10 months with regards to this, saying, look, none of our birds are sick. None of them have avian flu. The province and the Canadian government won't even allow a secondary test. So they're consigning 400 some ostriches to be executed. They're currently building like walls of hay bales around their enclosure so that they can just blow them away from the sky. They're going to slaughter all of these animals without even being able to determine that there's any sickness there. It makes absolutely no sense. This would be equivalent to, let's say, I start chicken farming. I got like 50 hens out there. One of them dies, and it's avian flu. None of the rest get sick. Immolate the body, get rid of it. And then 10 months later, the government tells me that all of these healthy chickens have to be killed. I've probably been eating their eggs the whole time, because eggs are good. One of the best sources of food that a person can ingest. You can fry them, you can scramble them, you can hard boil them, you can soft boil them, you can devil them. You can do all sorts of things with an egg. It's one of nature's perfect foods when you really think about it. But these poor people here, they're going to have to watch their entire flock slaughtered, even though there's no evidence that they're sick. And they won't even afford a secondary test to say, okay, yes, they still have avian flu genes in their blood or whatever, or no, they're perfectly fine. I mean, I would think that would probably be more cost-effective anyway, too. They're bringing in heavy equipment to lift these bales into place before probably, like, using them as artillery practice. The Australians tried to do something similar, not due to disease, but due to predation. Back in the 1930s, it's called the Emu War. EMU. Look that up and tell me that government is really rational and responsible and that we should have more of it. This is just another great exemplar of their common sense. Winter's loading sticks. We still don't know anything about Butler's shooter and not much about shooters targeting conservatives in general. What are the chances the deep state is hiring mentally ill people and erasing all trails? Well, I mean, if you look at MK Ultra, it's not like it hasn't happened before, so my mind is open. We don't have any definitive evidence, but it has happened before. Sigil. You know, your example actually did happen many times under Biden. He tried like hell to destroy the poultry industry. Yes, indeed. How many chickens were culled during that one outbreak? Is it 3 million or something? I can't remember the exact number. It was some catastrophic amount. Honestly, if I was doing farming, I would do everything that I possibly could to evade the detection of any pathogens within my stock. If I have to immolate a couple of bodies and bury the ashes, then so be it. I trust farmers more than bureaucrats to deal with such a situation because they have a profit motive. Why would I want people to get sick from my meat? That's not good for business. Why would I want the sickness to spread from animal to animal within my stock? That's bad for business. They have a profit motive. The bureaucrat's profit motive is to find a problem and then be able to do a bunch of paperwork. So you'll excuse me, but I'm going to trust the farmer with an 8th grade education over some bureaucrat who literally just inks paper because they're better at it. They actually know how to raise the animals. I remember when, what was that disease that broke out? Actually, it was weird. This was when I was a kid in Woodstock, actually, Woodstock, Vermont. There was an outbreak of, I think it was hoof and mouth, actually. It was a virulent pathogen. And I remember going to Billings Farm, and they had these, like, mats set up with antiseptic so that when you stepped over it, it would, prevent pathogens from spreading. That's pretty innocuous. But the thing is, the people that are running it are farmers, so they know what the fuck they're doing. They know, how to prevent it from spreading, so to speak. Now, I think it was foot and mouth. It wasn't, Sigil, it wasn't swine flu. They seemed more worried about the cows. So yeah, a couple gets, several people get arrested for raising ostriches, and now the Canadians are going to blow them away. And Poilievre and all of these others, they're being widely implicated, and there's like protests and shit because they want to kill all of these ostriches for literally no reason. All you have to do is institute a secondary test and say yes, they're sick or no, they're not sick. They're like, well, we don't know that much about avian flu, so we don't know how long it stays in their systems. All right, is it really that big a problem? No, it's really not. It's another way to get the public to be afraid more than anything else. Avian flu seems to be their new go-to. COVID, at some point, that sort of fear wore off. Now they're trying to do it with avian flu. Well, we found this avian flu in mammalian species, and it might spread to humans. And if you eat any meat at all, you might get sick. So you should go vegan and eat the bugs and or the soybeans. That's a bad idea. No, thank you. I'm going to be enjoying hamburgers tonight. Thank you. I'm going to be eating dead cow. It was alive before it died, you know. Oh yeah, then we've got to talk about the Trump escalator incident. It's pretty funny, actually. Flawed mangoes, rather be blaring spite. Cult motherfucker. I don't know what that refers to. Balshazar, fellow Ohio clankers, please vote Ramaswamy. He is based in general and his opposition is absolute scum. Amy Acton, Ohio Health Director under COVID op. Yeah, I would reluctantly vote for Ramaswamy if I was an Ohioan. I do not, in general, like him very much, and I can see through the used car salesman thing. But the alternative is clearly worse, number one, and he is at least intelligent. And he knows how to balance a budget, so, you know, you take what you can get. Mikuhuntu, Andy Six's tasty logs and Sticks tasty meat. Yeah, layer it on that fucking shit. Literally. The UN did respond, by the way, earlier this morning to the escalator and teleprompter incident. Well, the escalator was likely stopped because the dude that was filming Donald Trump, I can't remember exactly what job that is labeled. I think they made an excuse. It's a total excuse. They clearly halted it because Trump and Melania were about to get on it. And they said, well, it was because, a videographer was standing backwards ahead of the president trying to film him. This is complete bullshit. That's total nonsense. That did not happen. They stopped it in order to make a symbolic comment on his de-escalation on the golden escalator there back in 2016. Effectively, it was an attempt to emasculate him. It's highly symbolic. I guarantee that. 100% chance. But it didn't work. Because all Trump did was swing it around in their face and say, well, the only thing I got from the UN was a non-working escalator and a bad teleprompter. And humiliated them. The liberal media, of course, sees it in a different complexion. Donald Trump humiliated the U.S. people because he dared to hurt the fifis of people at the UN. Yeah, much like Nigel Farage with his good morning address that one time. That was, by the way, one of the greatest mornings that I've ever had. I'm sitting there with nice hot coffee, watching the video of Nigel Farage go in as MP. Good morning! You used to call me crazy, but you lose. That was really great. That was an amazing day. Some days are amazing, some days are sucky, We're hoping for more amazing ones. Yeah, that was great. This comes pretty close to Nigel Farage's good morning speech. Basically, he told the UN to fuck itself. That's what they need to be told. If the UN cannot be reformed, then it should just be dissolved, because it's basically useless in its current form. King of Biltong! Yeah, I guess we'll do Marmite this time. Did you know we also specialize in imported foods? Check out Biltong USA for a great selection of imported food items, and of course, Biltong. www.biltongusa.com. Code STICKS for 10% off Biltong. Get some of the meat. See, Marmite is more gelatinous. It's more like almost like caramel. Whereas the Vegemite's more of a paste, a spread. And then the Bovrite is more, it's not a liquid, but it's more, gelatinous, but not as sticky as the Marmite. The UN has not united anyone. That's the whole point. Well, I guess it has united regular people in hating the UN, so hey, you accomplished something, I guess. Inland Surfer. Styx casts some magic to summon Peanut and Fred spirits to deal with these Canadian food inspectors. Yeah, it'd be funny if one of them got bitten by a rabid raccoon or something like that. That would be fun. Ooh, book. You guys see the new mayor of Minneapolis declared the city to be allied with Somalia now? Isn't that sedition or something? Let me look that up. Oh, Fatah, yeah. I know that he had his endorsement revoked. I'm not seeing anything about that. If you mean like a suggestion to create a sister city, that's perfectly fine. It wouldn't be sedition, though, in that particular category. If it's just some sort of working partnership, that wouldn't fall under sedition laws. Because Somalia is not an enemy combatant. Is it a state that basically lacks a centralized government and harbors pirates? Yeah, and unfortunately not the cool kind like me. But it's not, as far as I know, I don't believe it's been listed as a hostile nation. It's just a dysfunctional one. It's too bad because Somalia actually has a pretty cool location. Lots of shore frontage, interesting climate, certain endangered species and things of that nature. No, sorry for Somalis. It's funny, every time that the Somali guerrilla fighters act up, it's Kenya that takes care of them more than anyone else. Kenya's actually got a pretty beefy military for a third world country, by the way. A lot of people don't realize that. I'd like to see Kenya. Oh, imagine the food. Copium poppies. The A is silent in caramel. It's not pronounced caramel. That's the effeminate way of saying it. It's pronounced caramel. Caramel, caramel, doesn't matter. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm going to go to Somalia, and I'm going to say, look at my hat. Dude, I need to borrow this ship for a few hours. That oil tanker over there looks good, but they got some potato and leek soup aboard or something like that. Arr, matey. CNN's Enton. GOP leads on economy, immigration, and crime. Whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working. Yeah, this is the chief data analyst, by the way, for CNN. The Republicans are literally ahead on every single issue going into the midterms. Now, here's something that I've seen. My dad actually talks about this. You know, these special elections, the Democrats are picking them off, generally speaking. They're winning like a 5-to-1 ratio at the moment. And so a lot of Republicans, because they get nervous very easily, are saying, oh my God, we're going to lose the midterms. But these are special elections. Democrats always outperform in special elections. They've been doing this for decades. The Republicans are more likely to outperform during, especially non-incumbent, but sometimes incumbent, midterms, and then in presidential elections. With special elections, Republicans tend to be pretty slow to the draw to try to defend those seats, whereas the Democrats, they get active at a local level. But this speaks to problems, two differential problems for both political parties. The Democrats have the problem that right now they're effectively functioning as a deeply, deeply shattered local and regional, like a state-level political movement. There is no clear leader. There's no clear real body of leadership. And so the central organization, this is normal for them, by the way, has broken down. The Republicans, meanwhile, have a very beefy, very centralized, and overall is working well, federal level sort of presence, and in certain states, especially the far red ones. But the local and regional game is anemic, and so they're losing these special elections. Will this boil down into the midterms? I do not believe so. I believe that the Republicans at this point, if the election were held today, I would guess that they retain the House and Senate, actually. Because the Democrats can organize locally, but then they're facing this juggernaut, which also has populistic support. The Republicans are ahead on immigration. They're ahead on crime. They're ahead on diplomacy. They're ahead on economics. They're not behind the Democrats in any measure, and are further ahead than they were in the last midterms on several of these metrics. If that continues, and the Democrats are not capable of formulating a federal-level response to the GOP, they will lose. And the Republicans go in with not only the headwind, potentially, but also with a at least slight majority in both the House and Senate. So they've got more breathing room. The Democrats don't have any because they don't control either chamber of Congress. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of elections. Copium. Styx is fruity. Caramel. LMAO. If winter's loading, I don't understand how sabotaging the teleprompter works in the UN's favor. When Trump's on prompter, he's more likely to be politically correct. When he's off prompter, it's the opposite. Yeah, he just continued rattling on. He ignored the problem. He just made light of it and then ignored it. They were trying to humiliate him, figuring maybe if the teleprompter accidentally shorts out, that he'll stop talking and he'll be all befuddled. Instead, he just shrugged about it. Darth Corn Pop, so Biden pressured big tech to censor. Where did all the, but my private company can do what it wants, folks go? They seem eerily quiet right now. Yeah, I know. It's only acceptable when the people being silenced are the ones you disagree with. Everyone's a hypocrite. Swamp Donkey. So far, Trump has been very disappointing with his inaction, flip-flopping, and overall unwillingness to scatter leftists and their financial backers. I would say there are some disappointments. On the tech and censorship end, I would like him to take more and quicker action, definitely. And I would like to see a complete freeze on aid to Ukraine. Some of you may disagree, say, Russia bad. I just don't think we should be involved at all because I don't care about the outcome of that particular war. Has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with anyone that I know, so it does not involve me. But Trump has done a good job on the economy. Inflation is being held down, tax relief is there, diplomacy is at least being attempted, and certainly on immigration he's done a spectacular job so far. He needs more time and more money. We'll see if the Democrats are crazy enough to shut down the government to prevent him from allocating more resources to the border response. They probably will. At this point, they probably are crazy enough to do that. Harrison Bergeron, I am tired of my money being used to fight stupid wars for other countries. Agreed. So, yeah, overall, I would say Trump is doing a good job. He's doing better than he did in his first term, especially with hirings, other than Patel and a few others. But he's not going to be perfect, and we've got to be real. There's no time in which you're going to see a politician in your lifetime, unless you yourself run for office, that you're going to see a perfect politician. Of course, you'll agree with yourself 100% of the time. Anyone else, there's always going to be some disagreements. Sometimes they're catastrophic, sometimes they're minor. It just kind of depends. With Trump, I would say, overall, I agree with the things that he's doing. And I certainly agree even more with the things that he said he wanted to do. I just wish some of them would be expedited more because they are personally meaningful for me. Namely, like Section 230. F. Winter's loading. What is the truth on aid to Ukraine? Trump says we're no longer funding. EU is buying our weapons and sending to Ukraine? See, that I don't actually have a problem with. And this may cause some of you to, be like, what the fuck? The United States has the right to sell weapons to literally anyone. If we're making the moolah, then I don't have a problem with it. That was merchant capitalism was basically the name of the game of our country. That's what made us successful. Oh, you want to buy, some recreational McNukes? Well, here they are, as long as the price is right. Get Drew Carey to peddle it to the Ukrainians or something. Selling weapons is different from, though, just giving boatloads of free shit to other countries. All military surplus, there should be a constitutional amendment about this. Military surplus should either be sold off to the domestic population or sold to a foreign entity in a bidding market. That's all. We're phasing out this plane. Well, we're not using it anymore. Instead of scrapping it out in the desert or something, why don't we make money off of it? Underdeveloped countries would love that last-gen technology. And we make money. We get back a return on our investment. You'd say, do this with anything. Hey, we've got this huge column of tanks from like the 1950s. I mean, they're still usable, they're still useful, but we're not fielding them anymore. Hey, Rwanda, you want a bigger armored column? That's what I'm talking about. I want to buy a tank. If you're going to scrap them anyway, just sell it to me for $1 and I'll take care of it. Give me an old Sherman or something like that. I mean, it is a cool looking tank. Swamp Donkey. What I mean is Doge, Epstein files, actually going after Antifa, foreign aid of all types, H-1B. He's already reformed the H-1B system. Antifa is now being gone after. The Epstein files, I would agree with you. That was a flub. They never should have let Pam Bondi come out and say, well, I've got the papers on my table and I'm going to release them all. And then not end up releasing jack shit. We've gotten very little additional information on the Epstein files. And the thing is that for the Trump administration, the real big problem is it gave ammunition to the left. Because then they could say, look, Donald Trump is shielding Epstein because he was associated with him. A casual stroll through the timeline that we can establish shows that Donald Trump did not go to Rape Island. He did not go to Rape Ranch. He disowned Jeffrey Epstein shortly after he had his first legal kerfuffle. And all he had to do was explain this to the public. It would have taken him 2 minutes. It would have taken him 2-3 minutes to explain it to the public and say, look, we've got the files, but at the same time, there are ongoing investigations. We cannot release it publicly. I don't know why Bondi was trotted out, or maybe she did it on her own accord, making things difficult for the administration. That might have been her problem more than Trump's. I don't know why that was permitted to happen, because it made no sense. As far as Doge, I don't think that Trump and Elon Musk really had a falling out. I think that they have a difference of ideas on how to move forward. That will, I believe, still continue to be a thing, but it's more on the back burner at the moment. But it did accomplish a considerable amount in its short inception anyway, and anything is better than nothing when you're clearing out bureaucratic clutter and garbage. Sign of Jonah, Stick. Suppose I killed a 9/11 terrorist before he got to the airport. Let's say I tried stopping him. Yada yada. He got killed. Now, suppose I run into a member of Antifa. Am I obligated to act? No. We're presuming that you knew that it was going to be someone involved in a terrorist event with mass casualties. The average Antifa member is generally limited to slapping someone or throwing a rock. It's not exactly the same as 9/11. Do I chuckle when I watch footage of Antifa members getting beaten down by members of a crowd that they wrongfully antagonized? Yeah, I find it fucking hilarious. You get some dudes in body armor, and they're like jacked up 300 fucking pounds of muscle, and you've got these little wiry Antifa members with pink hair and shit like that, who clearly don't know how to fight generally. And they're trying to toss their piss bottles, and then they just get owned. I find great pleasure in that. Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that I find that funny. But no, I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way. I'll just stare at them and laugh, basically. And then if they attack me, then I can respond. Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything at all unless there's physical damage being done to another living thing. Swamp Donkey. I wonder how firearm sales would be affected with Antifa being a terrorist organization. Probably not at all. The executive order, by the way, does not preclude members of Antifa from owning guns for two reasons. And this is unfortunate, and we probably agree on this, but it is what it is. Firstly, the executive order itself, unless there is a bill passed through Congress, doesn't have technically a lot of legal weight. Number two, Antifa members and their sponsors and backers, their handlers, you could call them, have gone to great lengths to declare over and over that Antifa is not an organization at all. It's just basically you're wearing a uniform, you're part of obviously part of a local group, a cell, you could call it, like a terrorist cell, but it's not really an organization because we're anarchists, so we don't really believe in a state or anything, as though there's no other possible way for humans to organize things. They've made this legal argument successfully on a number of occasions. Courts have accepted the basic premise that Antifa is not technically an organization at all. Now, this, of course, ignores the fact that they are quite clearly organizing, but I guess the fact that they haven't formed a microstate precludes them from being prosecuted for their actions in some cases. It's retarded. F. Winters loading. Best part of Trump UN speech was calling out Europe on climate, them going green despite overall CO2 increase because of China, Russia, India, etc., and Ukraine buying Russian oil. What point of sanctions? Yeah, Europe really has become a problem because I hate to tell you this. I know some of you are from Europe. I don't have any problem with people from European countries, but the leadership structure there is sick. It has retained the old world, top-down, extremely oligarchic, sometimes monarchic ideology, and still sees itself as the colonial masters of the world. I have a feeling that certain European countries, the leadership, believes it is their right to govern the rest of the world, and it's becoming a real big fucking problem. And it goes well beyond that, by the way. You look at the tech sector, for instance, which, again, I'm part of. I'm a content creator. European countries are constantly trying to bully American countries into adopting their standards with regards to data usage, privacy, speech and expression in general. They're constantly trying to do that. Or impose fees, other regulatory burdens. But they're not even European countries. In my opinion, the US government should stand up to them more and say, look, we're not going to do this anymore. We are going to completely ignore you. In fact, we'll put in our own rules. You can't cooperate with the European laws. Now, what are you going to do? When your people wake up tomorrow, they cannot use Twitter. They cannot upload to YouTube. They cannot upload to Instagram. They cannot access Facebook, etc. You get where I'm going here. What do you think the response will be? Because all of the biggest tech firms, for the most part, are in the United States. We have a virtual monopoly on that. Hey, it's the one time that a monopoly is a positive thing, if it is used properly. We should be backing them down and saying, shut the fuck up. I didn't see your people, Daily Motion, that's based in France. How does it compare to YouTube, for example? Copium poppies. Trump should put out bounties on Antifa members and give legal immunity to terrorist hunters and federal charges for state and local officials who interfere. $100 per Antifa scalp delivered. While that would be funny, there'd be a complicating factor, speaking pragmatically. I know that this is more of a joking conversation. What if somebody simply puts on an Antifa shirt and is not doing anything wrong and isn't even a member of Antifa and they're just trying to be edgy? First time one of those people gets blown away, then everything unravels. Lore, so USA is going to cancel the debt African country pay to Europe? Well, the Europeans have to do that. That's up to them. We don't owe any debt to Africa. We set up a colony to repatriate expat slaves and gave, black people the right to vote before women, oddly, which is an interesting historical anomaly, but okay. We don't know jack shit to anyone. As far as Europe, they can pay it back. I'm not sure why The European superpowers would have to pay a bunch of Africans, though, because they were the ones that developed a bunch of infrastructure and shit there. If anything, you should be rambling about China. Yeah, Laura, but the thing is, China is now taking over East Africa. So they can get their money there. They're the ones that are moving in. There are political parties in several East African nations who are single platform parties that simply oppose Chinese people being there. There's a reason for that. There's a lot of abuse. Copium poppies. $100 a scalp is high enough to make Antifa hunting profitable, and low enough to send a message to Antifa members that they are too worthless and don't warrant a larger bounty. I mean, you could institute that, I guess. If winter's loading, maybe the Trump escalator breakdown was payback for Macron being barred from crossing the street. I don't know which one happened first, though. It's possible. Copium poppies. I'm not joking. Also, if you wear an Antifa shirt, you'd be asking for it. We are at war. Going into a war zone and wearing an enemy uniform and expecting not to get shot is irrational. Yeah, but I mean, I've got like Soviet pins and, you know, a Bulgarian helmet from the Soviet period and stuff like that. Just because I'm wearing that doesn't mean that I agree with, you know, the ethos. I don't believe in policing the way that people dress, including in a vulgar sense. I don't give a shit if people walk around naked. As far as Antifa goes, though, I love to watch a good Antifa beatdown. It's quite wonderful. But I don't encourage violence. I just enjoy watching it. Just saying. Cordy whoop. Is there a code for the dog treats? Use code STICKS, I believe, at checkout on all 3 sites, if I remember correctly. Bulgarian helmet sounds like a medical condition, says the Dead Night Tiger. No, it's a Stahlhelm, actually. It's a modified version of the ones that the Nazis were wearing, actually. And they were common in East Germany, the southeast of Europe, places like that, Eastern Europe. The Soviets had helmets that were fundamentally modified but kind of similar. And I just got one, you know, years ago because I thought it looked cool. The problem is it's too small for my head, so I can't really wear it. It's more of a child's helmet, actually. I didn't realize, and I probably should have thought of this. People back then, behind the Iron Curtain, their cranial development was of necessity going to be on average lower because they were getting less calories. And so the idea of a medium helmet there is more approximate to like an extra small in a developed country. So I can't fit into it. It looks cool, though. Yeah, I've got like, I think I've got 5 helmets. I've got 2 M1s. I've got the Stahlhelm. Then I've got the 80s, the shitty replacement for the M1. The M1 was overall a really great helmet. They replaced it with one that was made out of ballistic material in the early 80s or late 70s, I think. And it had expanded areas for, you know, equipment for communications and stuff. So that was an improvement. But it won't even stop a 380. So ultimately, other than fragmentation, it was pretty useless, and I think mainly relegated to pilots. And I think they pretty quickly shuffled it out for the more modern helmet design. Serbian Capybara, Sticks, if you need to talk, I'm here for you, brother. I love you. You are like a brother to me. Thank you for that. I'm actually feeling pretty good today. Let's see. Copium, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. We aren't at war with them. We are at war with Antifa. Yeah, I know. Well, keep in mind, the Soviet Union is nothing more than the Russian Empire with a different economic and social model. Modern Russia is nothing more than the Soviet Union with, again, a new economic and social model that is smaller in size, although some of those states are still within their sphere, like Belarus, for example. It's like, I wish that I could visit some of these countries safely. It's just, you know, you've definitely got to study law in order to go to another country these days. Swamp Donkey. I have very close friends from Africa. While it is a beautiful place, it is, as the saying goes, TIA, you're better off burning money. The Afrikaners need their own state, though. Yeah. I know people in South Africa, actually. Anton's from South Africa. He came to the U.S. to sell his delicious goods. Anytime he's mentioned, by the way. Ah, some of it dripped out. Whoops. I don't know, I just can't get enough of it. It's one of the tastiest things I've ever had, actually. Sort of like eating a beef and veggie soup a little bit. F. Winter's Loaded. Jimmy Kimmel was crying during his monologue last night. He was literally bawling an entire 30 minutes. What's wrong with that guy? Okay, God, I gotta see that. Send me the link on Twitter DM if you can. Lemon Curd. Hi, Sticks. I'm sending you a present. Is it poop? I look forward to it. Now, I want to get a full suit of armor someday. Just for shits and giggles. Lemon Curd. It is a silver special thing. Oh, I can't wait to see it. That sounds fun. Oh, for the tricorn hat. Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of goofiness in the world. Yeah. I refuse to even bother talking much about Jimmy Kimmel at this point because it's like I just rolled my eyes and I'm like, what response do you expect? Oh, you got canned for 5 days. Ta-da, now you're back on. Well, in half of the states in the United States. Enjoy! SteelMastery.com for armor needs. Oh yeah, I think I've actually been to that site before. I mean, I've got ballistic armor, but I was thinking it would be cool if you had oversized, like, metal armor for blunt force and stuff like that, and then you took, like, level 3+ body armor and stitched it in and made, like, a full bodysuit of it. You'd be pretty much invulnerable unless somebody whips out a high-powered rifle. That would be pretty fun. Corn Pop. Hey, Stink. I just got here, man. Your shirt is getting a little lower for the moment. I'm sure that you're enjoying that. Ha. We've quite clearly gone into the Bants mode on this live stream. Oh shit, I'm almost at 1:10. I do have to docket a few things. I have a couple of science articles to hold over, but I don't think I really have anything else. That one's outdated. That one's outdated. An ancient reptile's fossilized skin reveals how it swam like a seal. That's fun. And this is a self-fulfilling prophecy with regards to Mamdani. We'll keep that over. And that dude that tried to shoot Trump, allegedly tried to shoot Trump, he seems just to be a nut more than anything else. Tried to stab himself with a pen when he was in the courthouse. So I guess we'll briefly talk about that. Anyways, I'm going to go offline here. It is time to go and get a little bit of food, I suspect. And I'll have to dock it for tomorrow. I thank you all for joining. Had a good time. And we'll talk about more news tomorrow. I'm going to try to get a little bit more science news in, though, tomorrow. I want tomorrow to be more of like, a laid-back, casual, it's not entirely political day, if that makes sense. Because I used to do a lot more like science and occultism and stuff like that. But I sort of got shoved into doing mostly politics. So I kind of want to branch out again, if that's possible. It would be fun. Take care, everyone. That's about all. Peace out.